The morning breeze drifted across Kingston as Mr. Winston Campbell, one of the most respected men in St. Andrew, sat alone at the edge of his massive dining table staring at nothing. His mansion was filled with everything a man could desire: wealth, comfort, status, loyal workers, polished floors, imported chandeliers. Yet that morning, Winston felt poorer than every man walking the street outside. At 68, the ache in his heart was not coming from age, but from a fear he could no longer ignore. His only son, Derrick Campbell, had refused to get married. This was not the ordinary kind of refusal. Derrick had locked his heart behind a wall so thick that no woman could climb it, no matter how good she seemed. He had been betrayed too many times by women who only wanted his money, his family name, or access to his father's businesses. Every heartbreak pushed him deeper into bitterness until he grew cold enough to say to his father, "Love is a game for people who don't understand reality. Money is the only truth." Winston had never been more wounded in his life. He wanted grandchildren. He wanted to see Derrick smile again. He wanted to leave this world knowing his family would not die with him. But Derrick's heart was locked, and Winston knew that if he didn't intervene, he would soon close it permanently. That morning, as the housemaid removed his untouched breakfast, Winston whispered a decision that changed everything. "If Derrick won't look for love, then I will look for love for him." He didn't want a woman polished by luxury. He didn't want to pretend to rehearsing lines to impress a billionaire son. He wanted someone whose character was revealed in the presence of the poor, not the rich. Someone who helped people not because a camera was watching, but because her heart was clean. And so, a wealthy Jamaican patriarch did something unthinkable. He rose from his seat, walked into a private room where he kept items from his younger days, and began to change his clothes. The expensive tailored shirt came off. The polished shoes were replaced with old, torn ones. The gold wristwatch was placed inside a drawer and replaced with nothing. He rubbed dust on a faded shirt, let his silver hair fall freely, and looked into the mirror. In place of a billionaire, he now saw a tired old man, thin, weary, forgotten, perfect, he whispered, with only a small knapsack and a commitment in his heart. Winston left his mansion in a taxi, pretending he was visiting a friend. But his real destination was downtown Kingston, a place where true character was easy to see because nobody had time to pretend. He walked slowly, his back slightly bent, until he found a quiet corner near a fruit stand. He lowered himself to the ground, rested his head against the wall, and waited. Hours passed. People rushed by, paying him no mind. Some stared at him with pity, some with irritation. Many ignored him completely. But Winston was patient. He knew kindness was a rare gem, and rare gems don't reveal themselves easily. It was late morning when he saw her, a young woman in a simple yellow top, and jeans approached the fruit stand. Her gait was soft yet heavy, as though she carried the weight of her whole family on her shoulders. She counted her coins twice before buying 2 mangoes. Something in her eyes, tired but deeply kind, made Winston study her closer. As she turned to leave, she noticed him clutching his chest, pretending to feel weak. She didn't hesitate for a second. "Sir, you're all right?" she asked, her voice warm with sincerity. Winston lifted his head slowly. Me thirsty, child. Just a little water," he whispered, allowing his voice to shake. Instead of giving excuses, the young woman handed him one of the only 2 mangoes she had bought. "Take this, please." "You look hungry," she said, pressing into his hand gently. Winston's throat tightened. Even as a wealthy man, people rarely treated him with pure kindness. But this woman, this stranger, gave him half of the little she had. "What is your name, child?" he asked softly. She smiled despite the exhaustion in her eyes. Althea Morgan." Winston watched her walk away, her step slow, purposeful, and full of quiet strength. A few minutes later, he followed her from a respectful distance and discovered where she lived, a modest wooden house with peeling paint, the kind that spoke of survival, not comfort. Through the open window, he saw her caring for an older woman who seemed sick. She fed her with patience, wiped her forehead, and whispered encouragement. "Mummy," she said softly, "I only buy 2 mango today, but I give one to an old man. Him look like him not eat from morning. God go reward ya, Althea." her mother whispered. Good heart always bring blessing. Winston nearly cried. This was the kind of heart his son needed. Genuine, warm, selfless. A woman who didn't give because she was watched. A woman who didn't expect anything in return. That evening, Winston returned to his mansion, still dressed as a beggar, and looked around at his beautiful life. Wealth had brought him comfort, but not peace. Yet today, sitting on a dusty street corner, he found the first spark of hope he had felt in years. If Althea's heart remained as pure as he believed, she might just be the one who could heal Derrick's wounds. Before he went upstairs, Winston whispered into the empty hallway. Althea Morgan, you don't know it yet, but destiny just pick ya. And to every viewer on Tales by Wealth, Winston's story carries a powerful truth. Good-hearted people still exist, but they don't show off. They show up. So before we continue, tell me in the comments, my wonderful Tales by Wealth family, do you believe that a humble, genuine heart can find blessings in unexpected places? Type True Love Still DY if you believe kindness still wins in this world. The journey has just begun. The next morning, Kingston woke up with its usual noise. Buses honking, vendors shouting prices, school children rushing with backpacks. But Mr. Winston Campbell woke up with something he had not felt in a long time. Excitement. Not the excitement of business victories, not the thrill of profit or investment, but the quiet joy of discovering something priceless. He had met a good-hearted woman yesterday, a type of woman his son Derrick believed didn't exist. And today, Winston was determined to learn more about her. He dressed again in his worn, dusty clothes, took a taxi downtown, and returned to the same corner near the fruit stand. This time, he didn't sit immediately. He walked up and down the street slowly, observing the people, listening to their conversations, trying not to stand out. But even in disguise, he carried an air of dignity he couldn't fully hide. As he approached the small food stall that sold fritters and fried dumplings, he heard a familiar voice behind him. Good morning, sir. You back today? He turned. Althea Morgan stood before him with a soft smile. Her yellow top was replaced with a navy blue blouse that had clearly faded from too many washes. But she still looked bright, as though her spirit shone more than her clothes ever could. Me just passing through, Winston said in a shaky voice, still acting his role. Have you eaten anything since morning? She asked, already knowing the answer. Winston shook his head. He didn't need a fake hunger today. He was too focused on observing her heart. Without hesitation, Althea reached into her bag and pulled out a small wrapped bun and a bottle of water. Here, take this. You can't be walking round pon empty stomach. Winston stared at her, his chest tightening. Child, you always so kind to stranger? She smiled, but it wasn't proud. It was humble. If I help them, God help me too. World hard, sir. We have to share the liquor we have. Winston nodded slowly, touched. This woman had something money couldn't produce. Purity. But he needed to know if her kindness was consistent, not just a one-day coincidence. Althea, he murmured. Why you not working today? She laughed softly. Me going work now. Me only stopped to check pon ya. He blinked. You stopped just to check on me? Yes, sir. You remind me of me father. Winston swallowed. He didn't expect that answer. Where him now? Dead since me was 10. Her face darkened for a moment. Life never easy after that. Winston felt a sharp sting in his heart. He was beginning to see her story, without her even telling it. A woman who knew struggle. A woman who knew loss. A woman who still chose to be kind. God bless your heart, he whispered. She smiled. Me trying. They spoke a little longer, and Winston learned small things. She worked 2 humble jobs. She lived with her sick mother, and she never complained. When she walked away to catch a bus, Winston watched her until she disappeared from sight. He followed from a distance, careful not to make it obvious. He wanted to know who she was when nobody was watching. Hours later, Winston found himself sitting outside a small school where Althea worked as a part-time classroom assistant. He watched her through the window help a little boy with his reading. She patted his shoulder, fixed his shirt collar, and encouraged him with a smile. She moved with grace, patience, love. Not a single sign of irritation. Not a single harsh word. After school ended, she rushed home to take care of her mother, who was coughing when she arrived. She cooked porridge, fanned her, cleaned her face, and spoke to her gently. "Me hope you get better soon, Mummy," she whispered. Her mother, Miss Gloria, smiled weakly. "Your good daughter, Althea. Better days ago come." Winston stood across the road, hidden behind a coconut cart, watching the entire thing. If destiny had a voice, it was screaming at him. This is the woman. This is the one. But he had a final test in mind. Later that afternoon, Winston approached her house, pretending to be in pain. He held his stomach, leaned against the fence, and groaned. Althea hurried outside. "Sir, what happened?" Me feel dizzy. Me head spinning." She didn't panic. She didn't shout for neighbors. Instead, she placed her arm under his and helped him sit on a stool. "Wait right here," she said. "Me bring you sugar water." She hurried inside, gave him the drink, and fanned him with a cloth. Winston sat there in awe. Even though she barely had enough for herself, she treated him with full attention. No fear, no irritation, just compassion. "Althea," he said finally, unable to hold back emotion. "Why you doing all this? You don't know me." She looked at him with the simplest, purest expression he had seen in years. "Because people need people, sir. Me can't see someone suffering and walk away. Not how me mother raised me." Winston felt tears burning behind his eyelids. He had seen enough. Today proved what he suspected yesterday. This woman's heart was gold. He returned home that evening, still in disguise, and sat at the edge of his giant bedroom feeling like he carried a secret more valuable than all the land he owned. Tomorrow he would bring Derrick to see her, without telling him the real reason. But before the chapter ends, let Winston leave you with this truth. A pure heart in a world full of masks is the rarest diamond on earth. And sometimes, destiny hides it in places the rich never look. And to everyone watching on Tales by Wealth, let me ask you with love. If you met a stranger who needed help and nobody was watching, would you still stop? Type, "Yes, I would help," if your heart believes in kindness without reward. Tomorrow will change everything. The morning sun rose slowly over Kingston, brushing the sky with streaks of orange as if preparing the city for something important. Mr. Winston Campbell woke earlier than usual, his heart beating with restless excitement. Today was the day he would bring his son, Derrick Campbell, into the presence of the woman whose kindness had shaken him to his core. He knew Derrick would resist. He knew Derrick would complain, but he also knew destiny had never failed a determined father. Derrick entered the living room still adjusting his sleeves, looking sharp as usual. Neat haircut, crisp shirt, the focused stare of a man who lived for business and nothing else. He barely noticed his father watching him with quiet intensity. "Morning, Dad," he said without looking up from his phone. Winston cleared his throat. "Derrick, me need you to take me somewhere today." Derrick paused. That request alone was unusual. "Where?" "You have a meeting downtown." "No meeting," Winston replied. "Just a small errand. Me want to come with me." Derrick sighed but nodded. He respected his father too much to argue. Moments later, they got into the car, the driver waiting for instructions. But Winston shocked them both when he said, "Drop us downtown, by the fruit stand." Derrick frowned. "Daddy downtown? Why?" "That area isn't safe." Winston simply said, "Is where me want to go." When they arrived, Winston stepped out first, moving slower than usual, eyes searching for the corner he had sat in the past 2 days. He spotted it. Then he spotted her. Althea Morgan was helping an elderly woman cross the street, steadying her with gentle hands, smiling through the morning heat. Even in the simplest clothes, even in her quietness, she radiated something rare. Winston nudged Derrick. "Come with me." Derrick followed reluctantly, his expression unreadable. The moment Althea saw Winston, she rushed forward, her face bright with concern and warmth. "Sir, you come back. You feeling better today?" Derrick blinked in surprise. "Sir?" Why was his father being addressed like a struggling old man? Winston gave a weak smile, playing his role. Me doing a little better today, child." Althea touched his arm gently, her actions natural and sincere. Good. Me glad fi hear dat. Derrick watched her closely. She wasn't pretending. Her kindness wasn't exaggerated. Her care wasn't performative. She wasn't even looking at Derrick. She didn't seem impressed by his expensive shoes or confidence. Then she turned to Derrick. Yes, son? Derrick nodded slowly. Yes. She smiled lightly at him. You have a good father, you know. Him humble, him grateful. You must take care of him. Those words, simple, innocent, hit Derrick harder than expected. Nobody ever talked about his father that way. People spoke about Winston Campbell with respect, yes, but always with formality, always with business titles, always with admiration rooted in wealth. But this young woman saw kindness in his father before she saw anything else. Derrick couldn't explain why, but he looked at her again, this time seeing her differently. She had no makeup, no jewelry, no fancy clothes. But she had dignity, warmth, and a quiet strength that made her look more beautiful than any polished socialite he had ever met. Winston watched the two silently, his heart beating faster. He had waited for this moment. He wanted to see whether Derrick's eyes would soften just a little, whether something inside him would stir, whether the walls he built around his heart would show even the smallest crack. They did. Derrick cleared his throat awkwardly. How long you know my father? Althea laughed lightly. 2 days. But him kind. Him speak gentle. Me respect dat. Derrick stared again. She respected a man she thought was poor. Not because of reputation, not because of money, but because of how he treated her and others. That alone put her in a category Derrick had long believed didn't exist. Althea then turned to Winston. Sir, you eat anything yet? Winston shook his head. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small parcel wrapped in foil. Me bring lickle fried dumpling and egg. Me cook extra this morning. Tek some. Derrick's jaw clenched in disbelief. She had brought food from home, her own food, to feed a man she barely knew. Derrick had seen people with millions behave colder than ice. But this woman, poor but rich in compassion, was giving from the little she had. Winston took the food slowly, his hands trembling from emotion more than age. Thank you, child. She shrugged lightly. If me can help, me help. Derrick looked at her again, longer this time. Something in his chest shifted. Something he didn't want to admit. For the first time in years, a woman's actions, not her appearance, not her intentions, not her words, but her genuine heart, touched him. Winston watched his son carefully. He saw it, the spark, the beginning, the quiet opening of a door. Derrick swore. He locked forever. Althea, unaware of destiny unfolding, simply helped Winston sit down. If you need anything, me right here, she said before walking toward the school where she worked part-time. Derrick stared after her quietly. Dad, who is she? Winston hid his smile. A good person. Derrick continued staring long after she left. Something inside him whispered that he had just met someone different, someone real. But he refused to admit it out loud. Instead, he muttered, She seems kind. Winston rested a hand on his son's shoulder. Some people, Derrick, have heart richer than gold. And for the first time in a long time, Derrick didn't argue. To everyone watching on Tales by Wealth, let me ask you this with sincerity. If someone showed your parent love while expecting nothing in return, would you honor that person? Comment. Yes, I would respect them. Because sometimes the people who treat our parents with kindness are the ones destiny sends to heal us. For the first time in years, Derrick Campbell woke up the next morning with a strange, unfamiliar feeling tugging at his chest. He couldn't name it. He didn't want to. But every time he blinked, he saw her face. Althea Morgan, kind-eyed, soft-spoken, quietly strong. The way she had touched his father's arm. The way she gave food without hesitation. The way she smiled without pretending. These things shouldn't have affected him. He had met beautiful women before, polished, educated, glamorous. But none of them ever stood out in his memory the way this simple Jamaican woman did. He found himself staring into his mirror longer than usual. Why? Why did he even care? He shook the thought away, but it clung to him like mist. Downstairs, Winston was already dressed in his usual beggar disguise, dust on his shirt, old shoes, everything deliberately imperfect. He looked like an old man who had been through too much. "I'm heading downtown again," Winston said casually. Derrick pretended to scroll his phone, but his ears caught every word. "So early? Me need to check on someone." Derrick hesitated. He didn't want to look eager. "I'll come with you." Winston's heart smiled. "You sure, son?" "Yeah, I don't have morning meetings today." A lie. He canceled them. They arrived downtown around 9. The noise of vendors, the smell of jerked chicken, the heat rising from the pavement. Everything felt alive. But Derrick's eyes were searching only for one thing. He spotted her at the fruit stall. Althea was rearranging mangoes, chatting politely with the seller, wiping sweat from her forehead. She looked tired, but her smile made it difficult to notice. When she turned and saw Winston, her whole face lit up. "Sir, you come back again. You're feeling stronger today." Derrick watched closely. That warmth was real. No act, no performance. Winston nodded, playing his sickly role. "Me getting there." Derrick stepped forward. "Try not to appear too interested." "Good morning, Althea." He said her name as if testing how it felt on his tongue. She smiled politely. "Morning, Derrick." Her voice, saying his name, did something strange to him, something he couldn't control. Then suddenly, an unexpected moment. A rough-looking man pushed past Althea, almost knocking her into a fruit stand. "Move from here, girl. Me late fi work." Before Althea could steady herself, Derrick's hand shot out, grabbing her arm protectively. "Watch where you're going," Derrick said sharply to the man. The man turned with irritation, ready to argue, until he saw Derrick's posture, the firmness in his eyes. He muttered something under his breath and walked off. Althea regained her balance and looked up at Derrick, surprised. "Thank you, me never expect that." "You shouldn't be pushed around," Derrick said, gently releasing her arm. "People should treat you better." A soft blush warmed her cheeks. She quickly looked away. "Me okay," used to the rush downtown. Derrick's eyes lingered on her longer than they should have. Everything about her felt honest, grounded, real. Winston watched the exchange quietly, pretending to fuss with his cane, but smiling on the inside. He had never seen Derrick react to a woman that quickly, not since before heartbreak changed him. "Althea," Winston said softly, "you heading to school now?" "Yes, sir." She adjusted her bag. "Me actually late." Derrick surprised both of them. "I can walk with you." Althea blinked. "Walk with me? Why?" Derrick cleared his throat awkwardly. "Just making sure you get there safe." She stared at him for a moment, trying to read his intention. Not suspiciously, but with the carefulness of a woman who had learned not to expect too much from people. "All right, if you want to." As they walked together through the busy downtown street, Derrick found himself studying her in silence. Not her clothes, not her beauty, her presence, her humility, her calmness. "Do you always help strangers like you helped my father?" Derrick asked. She didn't look at him when she answered. "Me mother teach me that kindness is wealth that never run out." Derrick swallowed. "Most people don't think like that." "Maybe," she replied. "But me mother's sick. If someone treat her good, me will want to treat them good too." Her words pierced him. Her kindness had depth. She wasn't acting. She was reflecting the love she wished the world had more of. Derrick felt something stir. Hope, maybe. Fear. Curiosity. He didn't know. When they reached the school gate, she paused. "Thank you for walking with me." It was nothing, but his voice said it meant something. She smiled softly and went inside. Derrick stood outside the gate longer than necessary, watching her greet the children, her laughter floating through the air like a melody. Winston came up behind him. "She good, eh?" Derrick didn't answer, but the silence was the answer. He was falling, slowly, quietly, unwillingly, but undeniably. Derrick Campbell spent the rest of that day pretending to work, pretending to focus, pretending to care about meetings and numbers. But every time he blinked, he saw Althea Morgan smile, heard her soft voice. felt the warmth of her arm when he held her after she was pushed. Something inside him had shifted, and no matter how hard he tried to bury it, it resurfaced with every heartbeat. Meanwhile, Mr. Winston Campbell prepared for what he knew was coming. Destiny had finally placed the right woman in his son's path, but destiny alone wasn't enough. Life always tested what it was building, and the test came faster than Winston expected. The next morning, Winston arrived downtown in his usual disguise. Derrick came again. He didn't say why, but he didn't need to. His father already knew. They found Althea at the fruit stall helping the vendor arrange pineapples, smiling warmly as she always did. But as they approached, a voice filled with jealousy and bitterness cut through the morning air. "Me hope you know Derrick only talking to you because I'm bored." It was Carol Ann, a loudmouth neighbor from Althea Street, a woman who always assumed the worst, always picked fights, and always resented people who possessed the goodness she lacked. Althea frowned. "Carol, and please nah start this morning." Carol Ann stepped closer, with folded arms. "You think rich people talk to you for love? Me hear say him father own one big business uptown. You think dem notice you outa all de girls downtown? Me beg you, wake up." Winston froze. His worst fear was happening in real time, someone exposing the truth in the wrong way and ruining everything. Derrick stiffened. "Excuse me? What exactly are you implying?" Carol Ann smirked. "Me implying that she trying fi catch you. You think she helping your father because she kind? No, sah. She planning a future with your money." Althea stepped back as if slapped. Carol Ann stopped. "Me never." "Oh, please." Carol Ann shouted, drawing attention. "Everybody downtown see you walking with him. You think you're better than we because one rich man notice you? Keep dreaming." Derrick's jaw clenched. "You don't know anything about her." Carol Ann scoffed. "Me know woman, and me know when someone pretending innocent to get a rich man attention." Althea's eyes filled instantly, not because of the accusation, but because Derrick didn't immediately defend her. He stood there, caught between anger and shock, and that single hesitation stabbed her heart. I need to go," she whispered. "Althea, wait." Derrick stepped forward. She shook her head, tears falling silently. "Me never want trouble. Me never want mix-up. Me only help your father because me thought him need help. Me never asked for this." She turned and walked away quickly, disappearing into the crowded sidewalk. Winston wanted to run after her, tear off his disguise, and tell her everything, that he was wealthy, that he chose her, that she had done nothing wrong. But he couldn't. Not yet. Instead, he turned to Carol Ann with the coldest stare he had carried in decades. "You is the reason kindness dying in this country," he said, voice steady but deadly. "When good people help, wicked people twist it." Carol Ann stepped back, suddenly ashamed. Derrick wanted to chase after Althea, but Winston grabbed his wrist gently. "Let her go for now. She needs space." "But Dad." "Derrick," Winston said firmly, "sometimes the heart shut down when it get hurt. You can't force it open. You have to heal it slowly." Derrick's chest burned. For the first time in his life, he understood how deeply words could wound someone who only wanted to do good. He ran a hand down his face. "She thinks I believe her motives were bad," Derrick murmured painfully. Winston looked at his son with quiet wisdom. "Then show her who you really are. Not Derrick Campbell, the businessman. Not Derrick Campbell, the rich man. Show her Derrick, the human being. If her heart truly pure, she will see you." Derrick swallowed hard. That was the moment he realized something important. He didn't just admire Althea anymore. He didn't just appreciate her kindness. He cared deeply, and he cared enough to fight for her. That evening, Derrick went home restless. He paced the balcony, replaying every moment, every word, every expression on her face. He couldn't let things end like that. He wouldn't. Meanwhile, across town, Althea sat beside her mother's bed, tears silently rolling down her cheeks. Miss Gloria held her hand weakly. "What wrong, me child?" "People always think me have bad intention, Mummy. Me only try to help the man. Now dem say me trying to trap him, son." Miss Gloria stroked her hand gently. "Good heart always attract jealousy, Althea. It's a sign you're doing something right. Althea wiped her tears. Me want to believe that. Miss Gloria lifted her chin. If the sun mean you well, he will come back, and he will prove damn wrong. Those words settled like a whisper of hope in a room. That hope turned into reality sooner than she expected, because Derrick Campbell was not a man who gave up easily. And to my beloved tales by Well family watching this unfold, let me look straight into your heart and ask, have you ever been accused of something your spirit would never do? Have you ever been misunderstood when your intentions were pure? If yes, comment, my heart is clean, and let the world know your goodness can never be taken from you. Because sometimes the world tries to dim the light of good people, but destiny always finds a way to turn the light back on. That night, Kingston felt quieter than usual. A soft breeze blew across the city, carrying the smell of rain and the sound of distant traffic, but inside Mr. Winston Campbell's heart, there was a storm he could no longer silence. He had watched Althea walk away with tears in her eyes. He had seen the pain in Derrick's face as he blamed himself for hesitating. And Winston knew, if he'd intervene now, destiny might slip through their fingers. He waited until almost midnight before knocking on Derrick's bedroom door. Derrick opened it with tired eyes, his shirt still on, buttons undone, stress written all over his face. "Dad, I can't sleep." Winston stepped inside, shutting the door behind him. "Me no. Sit with me." They sat on the edge of the bed, and for a moment, the room felt like it belonged to two boys, one young, one older, trying to understand the world and its wounds. "Derrick," Winston said quietly, "you like her, don't you?" Derrick looked away, jaw tightening. "Dad, I just met her. And what that have to do with how you feel?" Winston asked gently. Silence. A long, heavy silence that Derrick finally broke with a quiet, defeated sigh. "She's different," he whispered. "She's real. She's everything I didn't think existed anymore." Winston nodded slowly. "Me see dat. But she probably hates me now," Derrick said, voice thick. "She thinks I was embarrassed to defend her. She thinks I believe she wants something from me. And do you believe dat?" "No." Derrick snapped quickly, eyes blazing with sincerity. "She's the most genuine person I've met in years. She has nothing, yet she gives like she has everything. I've met wealthy women with hearts emptier than hers." Winston smiled faintly. "So what you waiting for? Go after her." Derrick ran a hand down his face. "How do I face her after what happened?" "By being honest," Winston said. "Not with your money, not with your name. Your heart. Show her who you really are." Derrick shook his head. "I don't know how to do that anymore." Winston placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then let me show ya." The next morning, before sunrise, Winston left the mansion alone, still in his beggar disguise. He walked downtown with slow, determined steps. His bones ached, his back hurt, but his purpose carried him. He reached Althea's street just as she stepped out to fetch water. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her shoulders slumped with exhaustion. She nearly dropped the bucket when she saw him. "Sir, you come here? This early?" Winston nodded, breath shaking slightly. "Althea, me come because me owe you the truth." She frowned, confused. "Truth? About what?" Winston looked around. No one was nearby. Then he inhaled deeply. "Me name is not Sir. You see before you is not a poor old man." His voice deepened, steadier, familiar to the man he truly was. Althea's eyes widened. What you saying?" Winston reached up with trembling hands and removed his worn cap. He wiped dirt off his face. He straightened his posture, standing tall, proud. In a matter of seconds, she saw a transformation so shocking, she dropped the bucket completely. Her voice shook. "Mr. Campbell?" He nodded gently. "Yes, child. Me Winston Campbell, owner of Campbell Shipping, Derrick's father." Althea stepped back, hand over her mouth. But why did you pretend like that? Why you deceived me?" Winston's eyes softened with emotion. "Because me son believe good woman don't exist. Because him heart bitter. Because people break him over and over until him trust nobody. Me want to prove him wrong. Me want find a woman whose kindness real, even when there is no reward. Her lips trembled. So you tested me? Not tested, Winston said softly. Observed. And what me see in you, Althea, is rare, precious, gold. Tears filled her eyes. But everyone think me trying to trick your family. And that is why me here, Winston said firmly, to tell you that you did nothing wrong. You never ask for anything. You never flirt. You never try impress nobody. You simply help a man who look like him need help. That make you 10 times richer than half these socialites uptown. Althea looked away, tears slipping down her cheeks. Me feel embarrassed, she whispered. Me feel like fool. No, child, you should feel proud, Winston said, voice deep with sincerity. Me remove me disguise because you deserve truth. You deserve respect. You deserve to know your heart pass every test life throw at you. Althea swallowed hard. And Derrick? He know about this. Winston shook his head slowly. No, not yet. But he know one thing. He care about you. More than him won't admit. Althea blinked, startled. Him. Yes. Winston stepped closer, taking her hand gently. And him coming here today. Not as the rich man. Not as Derrick Campbell. But as a man who won't apologize for letting you stand alone yesterday. Althea's breath caught. He coming here? Winston nodded. At that moment, as if destiny had been listening at the door, Derrick's car stopped at the end of the road. He stepped out slowly, not in a suit, not in luxury, but in a simple shirt and jeans. No driver, no pride, no mask, just a man coming to fix what mattered. Althea's heart pounded. Winston squeezed her hand once before letting go. Be gentle with him, Winston whispered. Him heart wounded long time. Then he stepped aside as Derrick approached him with slow, careful steps. Derrick stopped in front of her, eyes full of regret and something deeper, something unspoken but powerful. Althea, he said softly, voice trembling, please, let me explain. And for the first time since she met him, she didn't run. She didn't look away. She waited, because maybe, just maybe, this was the moment destiny had been building toward all along. For a long moment, the narrow Kingston Street felt like time had paused. The wind barely moved. The birds seemed to hold their breath. Even the distant sound of bus horns faded as Derrick Campbell stood in front of Althea Morgan, his heart pounding harder than any business deal he had ever faced. He had rehearsed his apology all night, but now, with her standing there, eyes soft but guarded, every word fled his mind. Althea folded her arms gently, not in anger, but in quiet uncertainty. Derrick, why you here? Derrick inhaled deeply, searching for the courage he had buried for years. Because yesterday me failed you, and me never want that to happen again. Althea looked down. You barely know me. Sometimes, Derrick said quietly, you meet someone who feel familiar even if you only know them for a few days. Those words made her chest tighten. He continued, voice low. When that woman insult you, me should have defended you faster. Me freeze because me shock, not because me believe any of that foolishness. She looked up slowly. So you don't think me pretending? Or want something from you? No, Derrick shook his head firmly. You never once look at me like a prize. You treat me, father, with more love and respect than people who know him for years. Your kindness is real, and anyone who say otherwise lying from jealousy. Althea blinked back tears. But people downtown talk, Derrick, and me no want mix-up or shame. Me mother depend on me. Me can't get caught up with things that cause trouble. Me understand, he said softly. That's why me here. Not as Derrick Campbell, the businessman, but as Derrick, the man who wanted to know you didn't do anything wrong. Silence hung between them, gentle, heavy, beautiful. Winston watched from a distance, pretending to adjust his sleeve, but inside, he was smiling like a man watching prayers come to life. Althea stepped closer, her voice trembling slightly. Derrick, me not use this kind of attention. People treat me like me invisible most times. So when everything happens so fast, me get scared. And you have every right to be, Derrick replied. Life treat you hard. people treat you worse. But Althea, me swear to you, me not here to add more pain. His words weren't sweet. They weren't decorated. They were honest, and honesty has a power deeper than charm. Althea sighed, shoulders relaxing. Me didn't want you to think me a user. Althea, Derrick's eyes softened. Your heart richer than mine. You give without thinking. You help without asking. If anything, me don't feel worthy of a woman like you. That broke her. Gently, softly, completely. She looked him in the eyes, the first time she really allowed herself to look. And in that moment, she didn't see a rich man. She didn't see a Campbell. She saw a wounded soul trying to heal. Just like her. Derrick, she whispered. Me forgive you. He exhaled shakily. Thank you. Her lips curved into a small smile. Not romantic yet, not promising anything, but soft enough to melt the bitterness he'd carried for years. Winston cleared his throat loudly, interrupting the moment. They both turned. Winston adjusted his disguise and said, Derrick, you help me walk back to the taxi? Derrick gave a respectful nod, but looked at Althea again. Can we see you later today? Althea hesitated, then nodded once, shyly. After me done at the school. Derrick's smile was small but genuine. Me will come. She watched them walk away, Winston limping slightly for the acting, Derrick steady beside him. And for the first time since the accusation, a gentle warmth bloomed in her chest. At school, Althea moved with a lighter step. She laughed a little easier. Her students noticed immediately. Miss Morgan, you're smiling whole day, one shouted playfully. Althea only shook her head and kept marking books, though her heart fluttered with a feeling she had long forgotten. Hope. Meanwhile, Derrick returned home with Winston, who wasted no time teasing him. Me see the way you're watching her, Winston chuckled. Dad, please, Derrick muttered, trying to hide his blush. You like her, Winston poked again. Dad. And she like you too. Derrick froze. You think so? Winston leaned back and smiled. Son, me 68 years old. Me know love when me see it starting. It's small and quiet, but it dead like ember waiting for breeze. Derrick didn't argue. That afternoon, he returned downtown, not with a fancy car, not with expensive gifts, but with a simple bag of groceries for Althea's mother. Nothing extravagant, just thoughtful. When Althea saw him waiting near the school gate, her heart skipped. You're early, she said. Couldn't wait, he answered softly. She bit her lip to hide her smile. Come, let's go home. They walked together again, but this time, not as two strangers. Not as two people thrown together by accident, but as two souls quietly discovering each other. For the first time in a long time, Derrick felt peace. Althea felt seen. Winston felt hope. And Destiny sat smiling in the background, whispering, this is only the beginning. The sun had already begun its slow descent over Kingston by the time Derrick Campbell and Althea Morgan reached her small yellow wooden house. The air smelled of evening rain and fried plantain from nearby stalls, and for once, the street felt like a quiet world of its own, a world where two people who had been broken in different ways were trying to understand what their hearts were whispering. Althea paused at her gate, turning to him with that gentle, careful expression she always wore when she wasn't sure if she had the right to feel happy. Thank you for walking with me again, she said softly. Derrick shook his head. Althea, it's me pleasure. Honestly. She lowered her gaze, her fingers twisting together nervously. Me not used to this kind of attention. Me not even know how fi act. A small smile touched his lips. Just be yourself. That's what make you special. Her cheeks warmed at the compliment. She didn't reply immediately. Instead, she opened her gate and stepped aside. Come inside if you want. Me mother's sleeping, but you can wait in the yard. Derrick nodded gratefully. He walked behind her, noticing the quiet beauty and simplicity. The potted plants, the old wooden chair, the clothesline gently swaying. Nothing expensive, nothing fancy, but everything felt full of life. Althea pulled up a chair for him and sat across from him, the evening breeze brushing her hair gently. Derrick, she began, yesterday shake me heart. People downtown, always ready fi tear down good things. Me nearly believed dem words. "I'm sorry," he said again, voice firm. "I should have spoken faster." "You here now," she said quietly. "Dat matters." Silence settled, not heavy but warm, like two hearts breathing in sync. For the first time, Derrick felt the courage to speak from a place he had shut for years. "Althea, me tell you this honestly. Before me meet you, me give up on women. Every relationship me had end in disappointment or betrayal. Everybody pretend, but nobody real. Me lose trust." She nodded slowly. "Me understand. Life teach me similar lesson. Me see how people treat me mother. Me see how dem treat poor people. Is why me keep me heart quiet." Derrick leaned forward. "But when I saw you help my father, without knowing who he was, me realize you're different. Your kindness honest. You never look at him like him was burden." She swallowed softly. "Me didn't know him was your father." "And that's exactly why it meant so much," Derrick said. Althea met his eyes, and something inside her began to open, not fully, but enough to let light in. "Derrick, me like talking to you." Her voice trembled slightly. "Me feel safe." Those words pierced him in the sweetest way. "Althea," he said gently, "me want to know you, not rush, not force. Just know you, spend time with you, learn your heart." She looked down again. "And what people downtown say. You're ready for dem words." Derrick reached out, touching her hand lightly. Just a moment, just a reassurance. "People always talk," he said, "but dem words can't touch me heart unless me let them. And me not letting anybody twist disconnection we building." Althea inhaled slowly, feeling the sincerity in his tone. For once, she wasn't afraid to believe. "All right, we can try. But slow." "Slow is fine," Derrick murmured. Just then, Miss Gloria's voice floated from inside, weak but awake. "Althea, you home, baby girl." Althea stood quickly. "Yes, mummy." "Me coming." Derrick rose too. "May I say hello?" She hesitated, then nodded. Short though, she tired. When they entered the house, Miss Gloria was lying on the bed, wrapped in a light sheet. Despite her frailty, her eyes brightened when she saw Derrick. "Good afternoon, ma'am." Derrick greeted respectfully. Miss Gloria studied him for a long second. Mothers always see more than daughters do. Then she smiled faintly. "So you the young man me daughter keep pretending she not talking about." Althea's face flushed red instantly. "Mummy," Derrick laughed under his breath. "She talks about me?" "Not with words," Miss Gloria said softly, "but with how she smile when she think nobody watching." Althea covered her face with her hands, embarrassed but glowing inside. Miss Gloria coughed lightly, then turned to Derrick. "If your heart clean, treat her good. She fragile in some ways." Derrick nodded deeply. "I promise you, ma'am, me won't hurt her." "Me holding you to dat promise," Miss Gloria whispered. After stepping out of the room, Derrick paused at the door. "I should go now. Let you rest." Althea walked with him to the gate. The evening sky was turning deeper shades of pink and purple, wrapping the moment in soft beauty. "Althea," Derrick said, holding her gaze, "me coming back tomorrow, if that's okay." She looked at him shyly. "Is more than okay." He stepped outside the gate, then turned back to her. "And Althea, thank you for letting me into your world." She smiled, small but full of something purer. "Thank you for knocking gently." He walked down the road with a lighter step, heart no longer weighed by past disappointments. Althea watched him until he disappeared into the evening. For the first time in a long time, a new beginning felt possible. A quiet kind of love, slow, honest, patient, was starting to bloom, and destiny whispered again. The next morning unfolded slower than usual for both Derrick Campbell and Althea Morgan. For Derrick, it was the first time in years he woke up with something soft beating inside him, a feeling warm enough to melt the cold edges life had carved into him. For Althea, her heart felt like a fragile flower cautiously opening after too long under winter's shadow. Before noon, Derrick made his way downtown again, carrying 2 bags, one for Althea, one for Miss Gloria. Nothing expensive, nothing flashy, just thoughtful groceries and a few medications Miss Gloria badly needed. He didn't need wealth to impress them. He needed sincerity. He found Althea outside, hanging clothes on a line. She looked up as he approached, and her smile appeared, small but undeniable, almost shy, as if happiness felt new to her. "You early again," she teased softly. "Couldn't stay away," he replied truthfully. She shook her head gently, a quiet warmth spreading across her features. "Me mother go be happy you come." Derrick handed her the smaller grocery bag. "For you?" She hesitated, her fingers brushing the handle carefully. "Derrick, me told ya, me not want tings." "It's not tings," he said. "It's help." Her lips parted slightly as the meaning sank in. He wasn't forcing wealth on her. He wasn't trying to impress. He was giving from the heart, the same way she had always given. "I appreciate it," she whispered. Inside, Miss Gloria was awake and brighter than yesterday. Her smile widened when Derrick greeted her. "Me daughter smiling whole morning," Miss Gloria said. "Me wonder what caused it." Althea hid her face behind her hands as Derrick chuckled. "Maybe she just in good mood." "Good mood?" Miss Gloria winked. "Dat mood have name." "Mummy," Althea protested, flustered. Derrick's heart warmed at the playful exchange. This felt like family, simple, genuine, full of laughter that didn't require money to shine. After a few minutes, Miss Gloria, sensing the energy between them, waved them away. "Go talk outside. Me want nap." Derrick and Althea stepped into the yard again, sitting beneath the shade of a breadfruit tree. The breeze was cool, carrying the scent of ripe guava from a neighbor's yard. "Althea," he began softly, "can me ask you something?" She looked at him with curious eyes. "Ask. D'ya trust me? Even a little?" Althea didn't answer immediately. Her eyes drifted toward the wooden fence, then back to him. "Me trust your father," she whispered first. "Him heart clean. Him show me kindness before me even know who him was." "And me?" Derrick asked gently. She inhaled slowly. "Me trust you trying, and that mean plenty." The honesty in her voice hit him deeply. Trust wasn't something she threw around loosely. It had to be earned, piece by piece. Derrick leaned a little closer. "Me want to build that trust. Slow, at your pace." Althea looked down at her hands, then up again with hesitant bravery. "Derrick, me like your company. More than me expected. And me not hiding that anymore." Those words, they cracked open something inside him, something he hadn't allowed anyone to touch in years. "Me like you too, Althea," he confessed, voice steady. "From the first day me see you help me father, without asking a single question." She smiled, soft, humble, glowing with something new. Then destiny stepped in with perfect timing. As they sat under the tree, Winston Campbell appeared at the gate, no longer wearing his disguise. He was dressed as himself. Clean shirt, polished shoes, proud shoulders. Althea gasped slightly. "Mr. Campbell, you come here like this?" Winston smiled gently. "Yes, child, because me want to see me as me really am. No more pretending." Derrick stood, confused. "Dad, why are you—" But Winston raised a hand. "Not now, son. Let me speak." He walked toward Althea slowly, each step filled with emotion. "Althea Morgan," he said warmly, "me want thank you publicly for seeing a human being where others see beggar, for showing kindness that not dependent on who have money or who don't." Althea's eyes filled with tears. She tried to hold back. "Me was just being—" "No," Winston cut gently. "You were being rare. And people must be honored for kindness that rare." He turned to Derrick, placing a firm hand on his son's shoulder. "Derrick, this the type of woman me always pray you find. Someone who see people from the heart, not from the wallet." Derrick swallowed. "Dad, and Althea," Winston continued, "me want you to know you're welcome in our family any time. Not because me son like you, not because of romance, but because your spirit clean. That alone deserve respect." Althea covered her mouth as a tear escaped. "Mr. Campbell, thank you." Winston's eyes softened. "And as long as me alive, nobody will speak bad about you and get away with it." Derrick looked at his father with deep gratitude. "Dad, thank you." Winston smiled. "Me didn't do this for you. Me did it for truth." The moment felt holy, pure, powerful, unforgettable. Althea wiped her tears and whispered, "Me never expect any of this." Winston chuckled softly. Destiny rarely send notice. Derrick reached for her hand gently, not forcing, just offering. She placed her hand in his, shy but willing. This time, she didn't pull away. Winston watched them with the satisfied pride of a man who had fought destiny and finally won. The quiet love that started with a mango, a sidewalk, and a simple act of kindness was slowly becoming something real. And destiny wasn't finished yet. The days that followed moved like something out of a quiet dream. Soft, unforced, and filled with a tenderness neither Derrick Campbell nor Althea Morgan had felt in years. Derrick visited every day after Althea finished work at the school. Sometimes they talked in the yard. Sometimes they walked through her community slowly, sharing stories they had never told anyone. And sometimes they just sat in silence under the breadfruit tree. Yet somehow, even the silence felt like conversation. Miss Gloria watched it all with a wise smile. "Love come gentle, my daughter," she would whisper, and not always fireworks. Sometimes it's just peace that feel like home. And she was right. For the first time in so long, both Derrick and Althea felt like they had found something more valuable than money or comfort, a place to rest their hearts. One evening, Winston visited again, this time not disguised, not pretending. He arrived with a small bouquet of fresh lilies for Althea's mother, and a proud smile for Althea herself. "How you doing, child?" he asked warmly. Althea smiled shyly. "Me doing okay, Mr. Campbell." "Good," he nodded. "Me want talk with all of you today." Derrick glanced at his father curiously. "Dad, what's going on?" Winston inhaled deeply. He looked between his son Althea and Miss Gloria. "Me have something important I say." Althea's breath caught. Derrick tensed slightly. Miss Gloria folded her hands gently like she already sensed what was coming. Winston continued, voice filled with emotion. "When me lose me wife many years ago, me fear me family would never feel whole again. Me pour all me love into Derrick, hoping one day him find someone who treat him with honesty and kindness." He paused and looked at Althea. "And then destiny lead me downtown, pretending to be poor, want to see who have genuine heart. Child, you pass every test me could imagine, not because you try impress anybody, but because kindness lived deep in your spirit." Althea blinked rapidly, tears threatening to spill. Winston's voice thickened. "Me want all of you to know, as long as me alive, you're not alone. You and your mother are family, not by blood but by heart." Althea covered her mouth, overwhelmed. Derrick stepped closer to her instinctively, as though protecting something precious. Then Winston reached into his pocket and handed Althea a small envelope. She shook her head immediately. "Mr. Campbell, me can't take money. Me can't." "It's not money," he interrupted gently. "Open it." Her fingers trembled as she peeled the flap. Inside was a printed document, a medical sponsorship note, signed and stamped. "For your mother's full treatment," Winston said. "Hospital bills, medication, therapy, covered. Your mother not supposed to suffer, because life hit her hard." Althea's knees weakened. A soft cry escaped her lips. "Mr. Campbell, me don't know how I thank you." "Then don't," Winston replied. "Just continue being who you already are." Derrick wrapped an arm around her shoulder, steadying her as tears flowed freely. "Althea, you deserve this and more." Miss Gloria, watching her daughter weep with gratitude, reached out a weak hand. "God bless you, Mr. Campbell. You're blessing my child because she good." Winston nodded, wiping his eyes discreetly. "And now me want say one more thing." He turned to his son. "Derrick, you want to ask a question, or me ask it for you?" Derrick froze. "Dad?" Althea's heart raced. "What question?" Derrick swallowed hard. For the first time, fear and love sat together in his chest. He turned to her fully, took her hands, and spoke from the deepest part of him. "Althea, me not ready fi marriage yet, but me ready fi commitment. Me ready to build something real with ya. Me ready fi court you proper, with respect, patience, and truth. If you let me want you in my life. Truly. The world seemed to pause, like even the breeze wanted to hear her answer. Althea stared at him with glistening eyes. Derrick, me never expect someone like you would want someone like me. He stepped closer, gently lifting her chin. Someone like me pray for someone like you. And that broke her completely. She fell into his arms, crying not from sadness, but from the relief of finally being seen, of finally being valued, of finally being loved without condition. Derrick held her tightly, his heart pounding with a peace he had never experienced. Miss Gloria wiped her own tears, whispering, God is good. Winston stood with pride swelling in his chest. He had walked the streets pretending to be poor, and in doing so, he had found the greatest treasure his family would ever know. That evening, Derrick stayed with Althea and her mother until the stars bloomed in the sky. They talked, laughed, shared stories, and allowed their hearts to settle into the truth. This wasn't coincidence. It was destiny. 2 days later, Althea's mother began her full medical treatment, sponsored quietly by Winston. Derrick visited daily, and slowly, Althea's world, which had been marked by struggle and doubt, began to mend. Weeks passed, and people downtown watched a story they never expected unfold. The billionaire's son walking proudly beside the humble young woman everyone once overlooked. And for the first time in so long, Althea Morgan felt chosen. Derrick Campbell felt healed. Winston Campbell felt complete. For a while, things moved smoothly, even beautifully. Derrick Campbell and Althea Morgan settled into a rhythm neither of them had ever known. Their days were soft, their conversations long, their hearts slowly weaving together like the threads of a hand-sewn quilt. But no good story grows without a little test. And fate decided to test them when the world outside finally noticed what was happening. It started when someone in the community posted a picture online. Derrick Campbell walking hand in hand with Althea through downtown Kingston. Within hours, whispers turned to murmurs. Murmurs turned to gossip. And gossip turned to bold rumors. Me hear say she trick him with tears. Me hear say him only looking someone simple fi control. Me hear say she using him fi money. Me hear say she pregnant already. None of it was true, but people rarely check truth before spreading noise. Althea felt the shift immediately. Neighbors stared longer than they used to. Parents at the school whispered behind her back. Even some of the children brought silly comments from home. Miss Morgan, me mommy say you catch a rich man with obia. The word stabbed like a knife. She laughed it off in class, but inside, it shook her. One evening, Derrick found her sitting quietly under the breadfruit tree, staring at nothing. You okay? He asked, sitting beside her. She forced a smile. Me fine. He watched her for a moment. You're not fine. Talk to me. Her lips trembled slightly. Derrick, people talk too much. Dem judging me for something me not doing. Me tired. Derrick slid closer, taking her hand gently. Althea, look at me. She lifted her eyes slowly. Me not dating people, he said firmly. Me dating you, what them say out there. He gestured to the street. Dem words don't reach here. Dem words don't reach me heart. Althea exhaled shakily. But me mother hear it too. She worried dem pressure, going stress me. Derrick's voice softened. Me here. Me not go anywhere. But society, she whispered. Society did not find you, he replied gently. Me did. She looked at him with tears gathering. And me choosing you, he added. Not by mistake, not by pity, but because me see your soul. Her tears fell then, slow, warm, healing, and Derrick wiped them gently with his thumb. Just then, Winston Campbell arrived, overhearing the last part. He stepped closer. Althea, Winston said kindly, let me tell you something we learned after 68 years breathing on this earth. People only talk about good things when they wish it was happening to them. Althea sighed. Me don't want trouble. You will not have trouble, Winston said firmly. You have family now, and nobody trouble me family. A weight lifted off her chest, slowly at first, then completely. Derrick stood, and offered his hand. "Come walk with me." She took it, and in that moment, with her hand in his and Winston smiling beside them, the rumors outside faded into meaningless noise. For the first time, Althea realized, love is not measured by public approval, but by who stays beside you when the world speaks loud. And Derrick stood solid, like a rock god placed exactly where she needed it. Weeks passed, and the gossip eventually lost its flavor. People always tire when they can't destroy something strong, and Derrick and Althea's bond only grew stronger. Miss Gloria's treatment also made her healthier. She began walking more, eating better, smiling longer. Sometimes she even sat in the yard just to watch the couple laugh together. One Saturday morning, Derrick invited Althea and Miss Gloria to spend the day at the Campbell family's home. Not a fancy dinner, not a grand introduction, a simple family day. Althea was nervous, more nervous than she had ever been. "Derrick may not belong among rich people," she whispered as they reached the gates. Derrick stopped and turned to her gently. "You belong wherever your heart is welcomed, and me father heart is open to you." She took a deep breath, then stepped in with him. Winston met them at the door with the biggest smile. "Welcome, Althea. Welcome, Miss Gloria. Me house is your house." Inside the mansion, everything felt intimidating: marble floors, polished wood, framed art. But Derrick never let go of Althea's hand. Not once. He introduced her to everyone respectfully, not as someone from downtown, not as someone helping his father, not as someone he is getting to know, but proudly, confidently. "This is Althea, the woman me choosing." Gasps followed. Some whispered. Some smiled genuinely. Some judged silently. But no one dared disrespect her, not with Winston watching them like a hawk. Althea held Derrick's arm tighter, leaning into the only comfort she had in the room. Later that evening, Winston asked everyone to gather on the back lawn. He stood with a calm authority, looking around at faces familiar and new. "Me have an announcement," Winston said. Derrick froze. "Dad?" Winston raised a hand. "Let me speak." He continued. "This woman here, Althea Morgan, saved me spirit. She remind me that good people still exist. She inspired me son to open his heart again." He paused, turned to Althea. "Althea, me want you to know something. You are already part of this family." Gasps again. But this time, even the whispers sounded stunned into respect. Derrick took Althea's hand, pulling her close. Winston then looked at his son. "Derrick, me ask you one question in private before. Now me asking you again, are you ready to stand beside this woman through everything?" Derrick didn't hesitate. "Dad, me ready?" Althea turned to him, breath caught in her throat. "Derrick, you sure?" He faced her fully, eyes clear, voice steady, heart open. "Althea, me want a future with you. Not rushed, not forced, but committed. Me want both our worlds to blend slowly until we build a life that fit us." Her tears fell instantly. People watched, touched. Some cried, some smiled. Others shook their heads in disbelief that a humble woman from downtown could capture the heart of a billionaire son. But destiny doesn't ask permission from society. Derrick held both her hands and said gently, "Althea Morgan, will you allow me to court you properly? As a man who is serious, intentional, and ready to build a family with you one day." Althea could barely breathe. Then she nodded, softly, humbly, beautifully. "Yes, Derrick, me would love that." The crowd applauded softly. Miss Gloria wiped tears. Winston exhaled like a man whose prayer had finally found its answer. In that moment, under the Jamaican sunset, Derrick and Althea stepped into something deeper than love, something purer, something heaven approved, a promise, not of marriage yet, but of destiny moving forward together. To my beautiful tales by Wealth family watching this journey unfold, let me ask you this last question from my heart. When two people choose each other despite noise, class, rumors, and judgment, is that not the purest form of love? Comment. True love always wins, because this story began with a disguised old man and ended with hearts revealed in full light.